Hey everybody, my name is Russ. Thank you for watching this episode of Just Open It, the YouTube series in which I open my recently acquired toys. This episode, I'm opening the third in my series of McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Dark Knight Returns action figures. These are relatively new releases. They're pretty much just now out on the pegs at your local Target and Walmart. And I'm such a fan of The Dark Knight Returns as a comic book, as a story, as a work of art, that I caved in and purchased these figures. Now, all four figures, when purchased together, assemble a horse. The horse that Batman rides in the fourth chapter of The Dark Knight Returns. That's kind of why I ended up buying these. Many action figures and statues featuring characters in this design of The Dark Knight Returns have come out over the years, but I guess just having that horse sounded really cool to me. Maybe because I recently opened the Masters of the Universe Origins Battle Cat. I just thought, you know what, it'd be cool to have Batman sitting on a horse on my shelf here. I've never had that before. So I purchased all four of these figures. I had to travel to many Targets and Walmarts to find them, and ultimately did find them all. And I'm going in order of the horse's anatomy here. So the Joker was the first figure I opened. He included the horse's head. So I call that Joker the Mafia's Revenge Joker. Carrie Kelly Robin, the Robin from The Dark Knight Returns, came with the horse's body. And so Superman seems to come with the horse's legs. And so I'll be assembling this horse in the final a video of this kind of mini-series here that I'm doing. My series within a series, very reminiscent of Hamlet's play within a play. This is Shakespearean, folks. That's what I'm talking about here. And I'm going to dive right into this Superman because I'm so anxious to see if he is as cool as he looks. I found Superman and Joker first in this series. Then I found Batman a few Targets later, and ultimately found the Robin at a Walmart. So if you're looking for these figures, hit up your local Target and Walmart. And at Walmart, make sure you go not just to the action figure aisle, but to the entertainment section, because I found Robin and many other McFarlane toys featuring Batman from the upcoming movie. Well, by the time this video comes out, the movie that's now out. So from the Batman movie to this line, to Batman from Dark Knight's Metal, I think it's called, and Last Night on Earth, and all these Batman stories that McFarlane's adapting. And you can identify these figures from the side of the box, of course, as well as even the top has, it says The Dark Knight Returns there, in that font, that typeface of the classic graphic novel. What I do wish that these toys included, and I've mentioned it before, is any kind of shout out to Frank Miller and Klaus Janson for their amazing work on this graphic novel. They designed the look of these characters, which have, these looks now have been prevalent in many statues and toys in the two-part animated movie that DC released a few years ago. And I just wish McFarlane, kind of in the spirit of creator ownership that he stood with, that he stood by when he helped found Image Comics, I kind of wish that was kind of here in these toys. Of course, DC owns these characters. I totally get that, but there's no harm in a nod. Even on these, in my opinion, completely superfluous, ultimately unnecessary collector's cards here, as they feature pictures of the action figure I own and not art from the comic book that inspired this style or look. You know, and in fact, art that might drive somebody kind of novice to The Dark Knight Returns to the graphic novel itself. But in the spirit of the past videos where I read the backs of these cards, I'll do so now. Superman, Kal-El, Clark Kent, adoptive name. Sent to Earth from the dying planet of Krypton as a baby, Kal-El was found by farmers Martha and Jonathan Kent and raised as their son Clark. As Clark grew, the radiation from Earth's yellow sun gave him enhanced senses and extraordinary powers, including super strength, super speed, and flight. Now fully grown, he uses his powers to protect his adopted world as Superman. In the near future, after the Dark Knight comes out of retirement to fight crime once again, Superman is called by the President to reason with Batman and quell the ruckus in Gotham City. Batman, however, has no plans to stop his war on crime. What results is an epic showdown between two superheroes to determine the fate of the Earth. Interesting choice of words in a few parts of this card. And I wonder if some of this is indeed inspired by Frank Miller's Superman Year One, which came out recently as well. I wonder if there's an attempt to kind of shoehorn a bit of that into this description. I mean, it's the Superman story as we all know it, no variation there, but to dwell so much, I mean, the first half of this on essentially Superboy, I don't know, it doesn't contribute to the Dark Knight Returns story quite as much. And I just find that interesting, that's all. Here's the stand, which some of these figures need. In fact, this is my second McFarlane Toys Superman. I have the Bruce Timm design from Superman the Animated Series. So this will be interesting as kind of a contrast. If I had thought ahead, I would have grabbed that figure and had it right here, but I didn't, so I don't. Now, all of these figures have this rubber band here, holding them to the bubble tenaciously. And last episode, when I opened Robin, her leg actually came off as I was extracting her from the package. Now, fortunately, the leg snapped right back on, but freaked me out. So, Superman, like Joker, is a much more dense figure. And I assume he's going to come out here a little more easily. But, like Robin, his cape, and they do this, you know, the cape is kind of, there's this slit and the cape is like shoehorned in there, so when you pull the figure out of the plastic, you gotta pull the cape out of that slot, and I don't know, I'm just not crazy about it. I'm not crazy about action figure packaging. I mean, it seems overly protective for figures that sometimes still show up somewhat damaged or loose or mispackaged in a way. I mean, if you're an avid action figure collector, you've seen it all. And currently, it's interesting that figures that like aren't in a protective bubble, but are kind of out on display in their packaging, so that I presume kids can like mess with them a little bit and really want them, and convince their parents to buy them. I've noticed that people steal those heads. Have you guys seen this with the Space Jam action figures that came out? People were taking the heads off of those figures. If you've seen that, comment below, because it was definitely a phenomenon here in Phoenix that I thought was very weird. But Superman doesn't come with any accessories. He doesn't need to. Maybe a sunflower would have been cool. He does come with extra hands. Which, again, you know what? I'm getting over this. The two clenched fists seem sufficient for action figure play with a Superman of this style. Here are the legs of the horse. Just two legs. I wonder if Batman comes with the other two, or if maybe I missed that Carrie Kelly came with two. But I'll be removing these horses' legs in the final video of the series to assemble the horse for you. But let's get on to Superman here. Very cool. It kind of has that, McFarlane, if you could hear that, the kind of grinding of the gears here in his joints. I'm not crazy about that either. It hasn't been a big deterrent for these figures that I have. It just makes me uncomfortable. I feel like something has a propensity to break with this kind of construct, but I could be totally wrong. And in fact, it could be the best construct of an action figure ever. I have no idea. But just exploring his points of articulation here, his head turns. Little, if you can see that little recoil on the head when I turn it. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, kind of stiff there. It does go up a little bit too, so that can make for a cool flight pose. I do love the design of the cape because it mimics the way Frank Miller drew these overly detailed, hyper furled and wrinkled capes, right? As far as the figure's ability to stand on his own, I could feel that he will with no problem already. And then I'll just, I could find a cool pose later for him to adapt for the shelf. But even now, just looking at him real quick, that's pretty cool right there. Just kind of the stance of power. Like, come at me, bro. Yeah, there he is, the Man of Steel. I will attempt to put an open hand on just to see what it's like, but I was really uncomfortable with the Joker's hand. I just felt like I'm going to break this thing. But with Superman, the hand comes off. And here's what's interesting is if you watched my Joker video, there was a bit of a gap on that peg that made it look like I could really break that peg off quite easily. It's not as obvious here in the Superman figure. There we go. But nevertheless, that's just such a small peg that to constantly remove and replace hands, it seems like a gamble that you're eventually just going to break it. This hand slid on fairly easily, no snap, but I like kind of the pose of the hand because it has this this sense of like, again, power, but also like he can grab the armor of Batman's helmet and just rip that helmet right off of his head like he does in the story. So that's pretty cool. I wonder if he could maybe stand with his hands on his hips like that too in a Superman pose. Doesn't look like the articulation will allow that, but kind of something like that. Again, there we are, Superman. Kind of this figure of really Republican power in The Dark Knight Returns, as he's a bit of a lapdog for Ronald Reagan. And although they don't really make any bold political assertions in the story, nowadays, just with the way everything is so divisive, they would almost like have no choice, right? If Superman's working for President Reagan, then Superman himself must either be Republican or condone Republican politics and philosophy. And whether or not that would make him a de facto villain in a story nowadays or not, it's not my place to say in a in a YouTube series like this. It was just one of those things I loved about The Dark Knight Returns in general, was that it strayed into politics and literally introduced a young reader like me to the idea of superheroes interacting with government and being agents of our military and what that would look like on a world stage and so on. And so even now, with the way the world is, if superheroes existed, what would that feel like? What would that be like? The Dark Knight Returns came out in 1986, and in some ways, aspects of that story are just as applicable right now than ever. So, with that, I will conclude this video by saying stay tuned. Batman is the final figure I will open for McFarlane Toys' The Dark Knight Returns series. And once I have all of those horse parts ready to be extracted from their bubbles, I will line them up here. I will look at that horse, and I will tell myself, just open it. I'll catch you then.